Our next speaker, notre prochaine invitée, Madame Caroline Cormier. This is Caroline Cormier from Cégep André Laurando in Montreal, who will be talking about Bloc asynchrones avec wooclap, une façon de séparer les groupes en deux. Je pense, Caroline, que tu vas aussi adapter tout ça en anglais pour le bénéfice de nos participants.
Oui.
Donc, je te laisse la parole.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here today. It's my first time at this conference and it seems really, really nice. I will talk about something that we did this semester. It was because, fortunately, even during the pandemic, we never stopped in-person labs, except for the very first start in March 2020, but we never stopped doing lab in person. But still, we had to do, social distanciation in the lab. So we had to cut down the groups into two. And that's the reason we came up with that idea of structuring kind of auto formation for the students. We call them asynchronous blocks. So for example, we taught that in 2 semesters of first year courses in Cégep. In Cégep, we do have a pre-university 2-year program. So I'm talking about the first year here. And for example, this is a syllabus for the second semester. Students had to do online classes, synchronous online classes, usually for the first week. But then when the first lab came in week 2, half of the class, half group 1, would come in person with the teacher inside of the laboratory. And the other half, we had to, occupy them with something. And we just didn't want to tell them, okay, just do exercises or something, do your homework. So we had to plan for a 3-hour period each week, because each week the groups were alternating that way. The asynchronous block structure was really deliberately constructed to be sure that the students would take as much learning as they could, even if the teacher was not there. So we tried to have the teacher with them during those asynchronous blocks. And the reason we used wooclap was it was just because it was a tool and it was existing, it worked. So, but basically you can use any educational platform for that. We used wooclap. For an asynchronous block, and now I'm teaching, I'm talking about one block of 3 hours. The block was structured as is. We first have a brief introductory video just to welcome the students, and that video was done by an instructor, just to explain what would the asynchronous block will be on, what it entails, and how long the students should expect to work on that. And then we go to a video of presenting a bit of a small part of the theory that is necessary to complete that asynchronous block. So those videos were previously recorded in the past years because we are using flipped classroom. We have been using that for 6 or 7 years. So we had a big chunk of videos that were already prepared. So that helped us very much because we just had to organize them into a block, but the videos were already existing. So those videos were kept short because we know by the literature on education that if they are more than 6 minutes, the students won't listen to them. And more than that, if they are more than 6 minutes, it's more difficult for the students to find what they are looking for when they are, revising for the exam, for example. So those videos are short, and following a video is 3 or 4, 2 to 5 exercises on the platform. So multiple choice or association or things on wooclap. And then you do a couple of iterations of that with 4 or 6 videos for each asynchronous blocks with, exercises. And that was really important for us. We didn't want the students to do only work on the platform because our exams were not on that platform. So we wanted to prepare the students for the actual exams that are pen and paper exams. So we had them do real problems on paper, and I will be talking about those. We call them PF problems because it's the portfolio. I will talk about that in a few minutes. But first, let's look at the platform wooclap just a bit, because as I said, you can use anything that can structure the block as that way. We chose wooclap particularly because of the flexibility of the exercises that can be proposed to the students with that. So you can have, for example, locate on picture questions, and we haven't found that on the other platforms for online quizzes or things. So the students actually have to click on some place on the figure to identify an element. For example, here, that was a question about the electrons. You have also association questions, open-ended questions, or multiple choice. So there are a variety of possibility for the exercises, and that's one of the reasons we chose that platform. So let's look at one block here. And that is my colleague, Véronique. She was the instructor who constructed that particular asynchronous block. And we are now on the wooclap platform, but not on the interface the student would see. It's the results that the teacher gets after the student complete all the work. So you have the introduction video here, and then the first theory video. And as you can see, maybe you cannot see, but it was a couple of years ago, and I don't look like that anymore. And then a brief summary, and then questions. And those are the results that my students got with those questions. So I can see easily that, okay, they were quite, they resolved that question quite easily. And then I can scroll down to the other video and so on. So every time we have a video, we have a couple of questions. So that's a video, a brief summary, couple of questions, etc. And for the portfolio problems, as I said, when the students complete that part on the platform, they go outside of the platform and do pen and paper real problems. And that's an example just to show you. You cannot see, actually, you cannot read, it's really too small, but I just wanted to show that it's actually a sheet of paper, and the students, they do print it out at home, and they do the exercise on paper. They give it back to the instructor, and we grade them, not by giving a formal assessment, but just to give feedback. For example, here my student made a couple of mistakes. I just circled them, pointed out a couple of hints, how they can correct their answers, and we collect them again before the exam for actual points, actual marks. So that's the portfolio problems. It was really important for us not only to have them work on a platform, but also on paper. The student appreciation of the asynchronous blocks is really, really positive. So you can see for the here, the first column is the appreciation about asynchronous blocks in particular. What is green is positive, and what is red is they did not like it. So you can see that most of the students really enjoy the asynchronous blocks. When you compare to face-to-face classes, for a brief period of 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks this semester, we had the authorization by the government to have face-to-face classes, but they shut it out so really, really fast. So some of our students did have the opportunity to come to have face-to-face classes, and they enjoyed that very much. They enjoyed in-person labs as well, but not as highly as the asynchronous blocks. Maybe it was just because those labs were maybe not as interesting for them. I don't know. The synchronous online classes was very disliked by a lot of students. That's the synchronous online classes. You know, it's not motivating hearing teacher lecturing for 3 hours. And then the PF, the portfolio problems and the videos in general are, well, as you can see, the point to be taken from that slide, it's actually the students really enjoyed asynchronous blocks compared to all the other things that we surveyed. Their comments, the students' comments, were that the asynchronous blocks were well structured. That gave them a form of autonomy in their learning. There was they were easy to access and easy to use, and they have various modalities, so videos and exercises and pen and paper problems. The negative comments were less abundant. Some students found that it was too bad that the topics were not covered also in class, but we didn't have time to cover both asynchronously and synchronously. And some of the students said it was really time consuming, but we asked them, how long did you spend on the asynchronous blocks? And actually it was exactly what we intend for them. So maybe they found it time consuming, but not more than the regular class. So will we keep those asynchronous blocks post-pandemic? Probably, just to structure maybe the flipped classroom. But yes, and I'm at the end of my 10 minutes, right, François?
Yes, you are. I was going to ask you to wrap up if possible, and maybe complete that with answering the questions in the Q&A later.
Yes, so that's it.